My phone buzzes against the nightstand, dragging me from deep sleep. The red numbers on the hotel clock glare accusingly. 1:47 a.m. Denver's city lights filter through thin curtains as I fumble for my cell, squinting against its harsh glow. A text message from Mom. Finally took care of that empty house of yours. You're welcome. I blink, trying to make sense of the words through my sleep-fogged brain. Empty house? What is she talking about? My thumb swipes open the message thread, revealing a cascade of follow-up texts. The realtor found us a cash buyer, $1.25 million. Can you believe it? We used that old power of attorney from when you deployed to Kuwait. Don't worry, we signed everything properly. My body goes rigid. The power of attorney. The military document I'd signed 8 years ago, meant for emergencies during deployment. The one I forgot to revoke. Another text appears. Rachel's wedding venue deposit is secured. She's ecstatic. The caterer, the band, everything top shelf. Our baby deserves the best. A cold wave washes over me as the pieces click into horrifying place. The Bethesda house. My house. The one the Marshal Service uses as a safe house for the Romano cartel witnesses. The Espinoza family, Carla and her boys living there under round-the-clock protection. My parents just sold a federal safe house to fund my sister's wedding. My hands tremble as I call Mom back, praying this is some terrible misunderstanding. She answers on the first ring, chipper despite the hour. Vanessa, isn't it wonderful news? We've been trying to reach you for days. Mom, I say, my voice barely controlled. What exactly did you do? We sold your house in Bethesda. That place you never visit? The one just sitting there empty? Tom, pick up the extension. Vanessa's on the line. I hear Dad's voice, gruff with sleep. Van? That you? The house wasn't empty. I managed through clenched teeth. Don't be silly. Mom laughs. We drove by twice. Not a single light on, newspapers piled up. The realtor did a walkthrough. Nobody lives there. Of course not. The Marshal Service maintains perfect operational security. Blackout curtains, mail collection protocols, no visible signs of habitation. You had no right, I whisper. We had every right, Dad counters. That power of attorney is still valid. We checked with Rachel's fiancé's cousin who practices real estate law. A crushing weight settles on my chest. Who bought it? Greenstone Realty Group. Mom chirps. All cash. Can you believe our luck? Settlement was yesterday. Rachel's already put deposits on the Plaza Hotel ballroom. Greenstone. The name means nothing to me, but ice forms in my veins. Cash buyers don't ask questions. Cash buyers with shell company names pay premium prices for very specific reasons. Vanessa. Dad's voice drops into that familiar tone, the one he's used my entire life when explaining why Rachel's needs trumped mine. Sometimes family comes first. Rachel needs this more than you do. An old familiar ache blooms, but I shove it aside. This isn't about childhood slights or Rachel's golden child status. This is about 3 lives now in imminent danger. I have to go, I say flatly, but we need to discuss. I end the call, fingers already dialing Deputy Chief Hale's direct line. He answers on the 4th ring, voice thick with sleep. Hale. Sir, my parents just sold the Romano safe house. The silence stretches for 3 heartbeats. Then his voice transforms, sleep vanishing instantly. Say that again, Deputy. My parents found an old military power of attorney and sold my Bethesda house to a cash buyer. Settlement completed yesterday. Jesus Christ. The rustling of sheets. A lamp clicking on. Who's the buyer? Greenstone Realty Group, LLC. His sharp intake of breath tells me he's reached the same conclusion I have. Nobody pays cash for a federal law enforcement officer's home unless they're hunting someone. Get on the next flight to DC. His voice has turned to granite. I'm activating a Tier 1 relocation. I'll call in the team. Sir, This is not a discussion, Cole. The Espinozas are blown. If Romano's people made the connection between you and that house, they're already moving. My throat constricts as reality crashes down. The Romano cartel. Victor Romano Jr., the man whose father Carla Espinoza is testifying against. The man with a reputation for sending dismembered body parts as warnings. Yes, sir. On my way. I throw my suitcase onto the bed and start shoving clothes inside, mind racing through emergency protocols. My phone feels like a brick in my hand, heavy with the weight of what's happened. What have they done? I whisper to the empty room. The answer comes in the form of my mother's next text, cheerfully explaining they've arranged a surprise engagement brunch for Rachel and Evan this Sunday. Have you ever received news that changed everything in an instant? I stare at the message, knowing that by morning, Rachel's wedding dreams will be the least of our family's problems. The Justice Department conference room smelled of burnt coffee and dread. 6 hours after my midnight call to Hale, I sat surrounded by grim-faced federal agents. My carry-on suitcase stood in the corner, still holding the hastily packed clothes from Denver. Let's review what we know, Deputy Chief Jordan Hale said, his thumb tapping against a manila folder. No tie, rumpled shirt, he'd been up all night assembling this emergency response team. The sale closed yesterday at 11:37 a.m. for $1.25 million to Greenstone Realty Group, LLC. Elaine Porter, senior counsel for the Witness Security Program, adjusted her wire-rimmed glasses. Market value of that property is $3.2 million. Nobody pays that far under market without a reason. Her voice held the tight control of someone who'd seen disaster before. The LLC was registered in Delaware 3 weeks ago. We've traced connections to shell companies in Nassau. My stomach clenched. It's Romano. Almost certainly. Elaine's eyes met mine. It's cartel-linked. I stared at the crime scene photos spread across the table. Not a crime scene yet, but the surveillance photos of my Bethesda Colonial, the home I'd purchased specifically because the Marshal Service needed a secure location. The home where Carla Espinoza and her sons had been living under 24-hour protection. How did they find it? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Hale slid a document across to me. A power of attorney form with my signature, yellowed at the edges from sitting in my parents' filing cabinet for 8 years. Your father presented this to the title company. They verified it against military records. It was for my Kuwait deployment. The words felt like ash in my mouth. I never revoked it. Your father listed your mother as the realtor of record. Hale's tone remained neutral, but his eyes betrayed his anger. Not at me, but at what had happened. 5% commission on top of the proceeds. $62,000. The number burned into my brain. For my sister's wedding. The Espinosas are being moved as we speak. Hale checked his watch. Tactical teams bringing them to a staging area. You're going to meet them there. Explain what happened. Fear snaked around my ribs. Sir, I don't think... They deserve to know why they're being uprooted, Cole. His voice left no room for argument. From someone who'll look them in the eye when she tells them. 4 hours later, I stood in the reinforced basement of the federal building, watching Carla Espinoza's face drain of color. Her boys, Miguel, 14, and Antonio, 10, huddled against her sides. The tactical team had rushed them from my house with only the clothes on their backs. Your family? Carla whispered, her fingers digging into her son's shoulders. They found us because of your family? I swallowed hard. My parents. Yes. Her dark eyes narrowed, the trust we'd built over months of protection crumbling. You swore we would be safe. You are safe. We got you out in time. I gestured to the underground facility, the armed marshals at every door. Romano's people haven't. Mama! Miguel interrupted, his adolescent voice cracking. Will they find us again? Before Carla could answer, the steel door opened. Marshal Deacon Ruiz entered, tactical vest still strapped to his chest. The man had been running operations for 18 hours straight, but his alertness never wavered. Extraction teams ready when you are, he said, nodding respectfully to Carla. Transport to Quantico leaves in 10. Quantico? Carla's eyes widened. The Marine base? Temporary safe house until we can establish a new identity package, I explained, desperate to rebuild her confidence in our protection. Nobody gets in or out without highest clearance. Elaine Porter strode in, tapping furiously on her tablet. Money trails coming together. The same Nassau account that funded Greenstone made 3 payments to private investigators in the D.C. area over the past month. They were already looking, Ruiz muttered, and my parents gave them the golden ticket. The words tasted bitter. Carla clutched Antonio closer as the boy buried his face in her shirt. Victor Romano Jr. doesn't stop hunting, she whispered. Not until he finds what he wants. A chill ran through the room. Victor Romano Jr., son of the cartel boss Carla, was set to testify against. The man who'd ordered her husband's execution. The man who sent dismembered fingers to federal prosecutors as warnings. Mrs. Espinoza. Hale stepped forward, the authority in his voice commanding attention. Romano's son doesn't know where you are now, and he never will. Antonio peeked out from his mother's embrace. Promise? The question hung in the air, A child's simple request for security that none of us could absolutely guarantee. I promise we'll do everything in our power. Hale answered, the closest to honesty he could offer. 3 hours later, I watched from the federal building roof as the armored convoy departed for Quantico. 6 identical black SUVs, only one containing the Espinoza family. The others carried decoy teams, all following different routes to the Marine base 30 miles south. They'll be secure tonight. Elaine joined me at the railing. The money trail team needs your parents' banking information, every transaction for the past 6 months. You'll have it. I couldn't tear my eyes from the disappearing convoy. You should know. She hesitated. I've filed emergency motions to freeze the proceeds from the sale. All of it. I nodded, including Rachel's wedding deposits. The legal consequences for your parents will be what they deserve, I finished, surprising myself with the steel in my voice. Elaine studied me for a long moment. What would you do if your family's actions put innocent lives at risk? The question wasn't hypothetical. It was an assessment of me, of my loyalty, of which side I truly stood on. I turned to face her fully. I'd make sure justice was served, no matter who it hurt. My phone buzzed. Hale's number. Cole, I answered. His voice came through tight and focused. Intel just confirmed Romano's people were already surveilling Quantico when our convoy arrived. They're moving faster than we anticipated. The cold fear that had lingered all day crystallized into something harder, something resolute. I'll meet you there in 30, I said. As I pocketed my phone, another message appeared from my mother. A photo of Rachel in a designer wedding gown, beaming. The caption, venue deposit paid, $380,000 total but worth every penny. Can't wait to show you. I stared at my sister's smiling face, wondering if she knew her happiness had been purchased with 3 lives. Later that evening, the aroma of charcoal and grilled meat wafts across my parents' Lancaster backyard. Red checkered tablecloths flutter in the late afternoon breeze, while relatives cluster around picnic tables laden with potato salad, corn on the cob, and Dad's famous ribs. A scene so achingly normal it makes my stomach clench. I hang back by the garage with Hale and 2 agents, watching my sister Rachel hold court near the rose trellis. Her diamond engagement ring catches sunlight as she flips through photos on her tablet, surrounded by aunts and cousins. $380 in deposits, Rachel announces, her voice carrying across the yard. The Plaza Hotel ballroom books up years in advance, but they had a cancellation. She tucks a strand of blonde hair behind her ear. We got so lucky. Lucky. The word sticks in my throat like a fishbone. You ready for this? Hale asks beside me, his government-issue SUV ticking as it cools in the driveway. No, I answer honestly, but necessary things rarely wait for ready. We move across the lawn together. Conversation dies in ripples as heads turn. My cousin Brenda's plastic cup freezes halfway to her mouth. Uncle Frank's eyebrows climb toward his receding hairline. Rachel spots us last, her smile vanishing when she registers my expression and the strangers flanking me. Mom emerges from the kitchen, wiping hands on her apron. Vanessa! You made it after all. Her voice trails off as she takes in Hale's grim expression. Who are your friends, dear? Hale steps forward, badge already extended. Deputy Chief Jordan Hale, U.S. Marshal Service. We need to discuss the Bethesda property. Dad appears from behind the grill, beer in hand. What's this about, Van? The yard has gone cemetery quiet. Even the birds seem to pause their singing. That house wasn't just mine. I say, keeping my voice measured despite the fury churning beneath. It was a federal safe house protecting witnesses in an active cartel investigation. Dad's beer slips from his fingers. The bottle shatters against the patio stones, foam and glass spraying across his deck shoes. That's impossible, Mom sputters. We didn't know. Clearly, Hale cuts in. Otherwise, you wouldn't have sold federal property to a cash buyer without asking questions. Rachel pushes through the circle of relatives. What does this have to do with us? The house was empty. It wasn't empty, I say. The witnesses were temporarily relocated for a court appearance. They were scheduled to return tomorrow. This must be a misunderstanding, Dad insists, his face flushing crimson. The realtor assured us. Where did you find this realtor? Agent Grayson interrupts, notebook already open. Mom's hand flutters to her throat. Miriam Blackwell introduced us at Rotary Club. I mentioned Vanessa's empty house in Bethesda. You talked about my house at Rotary Club? The betrayal slices deeper. A house you knew I rarely discussed? You never visit it, Rachel snaps. It was just sitting there empty while I've been scrambling for wedding funds. My cousin Brenda tries to usher the children inside as the tension mounts. Uncle Frank mumbles something about grabbing another beer. Nobody moves. You should have told us about the witnesses, Dad says, finding his footing. This is on you, Vanessa. The accusation hits like a physical blow. You used an expired military power of attorney to sell property that wasn't yours to sell. We had every right, Mom insists, the lawyer said. Which lawyer? Hale demands. Rachel's fiancé's cousin, Mom says, her certainty wavering. He practices real estate law in Pittsburgh. Rachel steps forward, tears welling. You're ruining my wedding over your stupid job. $380,000 in non-refundable deposits. The dress alone cost... Rachel, I interrupt. 3 people's lives were endangered. Children. We didn't know, Mom wails. Hale clears his throat. Mrs. Cole, our investigation has revealed that Greenstone Realty Group LLC, the company that purchased the property, is owned by Victor Romano Jr. The name falls like a grenade into the barbecue. Even Rachel goes silent. Victor Romano, Dad repeats slowly, as in, the cartel family? The very same, Hale confirms. Agent Torres, would you show them the warrant? Torres steps forward with an official document. This is a federal seizure order for all proceeds from the sale of the Bethesda property, including any funds already dispersed or spent. Rachel's face drains of color. But my wedding. Federal funds take precedence over wedding cakes, Hale says without sympathy. From across the lawn comes the sound of a car door slamming. Rachel's fiancé Evan strides toward us, his golf polo pristine, sunglasses perched on his head. What's going on? He asks, sensing the tension. Rachel texted something about the feds and money. Agent Torres hands him a copy of the warrant. He scans it, jaw tightening. Is this for real? He asks, looking from Rachel to my parents, then to me. You're telling me the wedding money came from a house sale to drug dealers? Evan, we can explain. Rachel begins. No thanks. He tosses the papers onto the picnic table. I'm not starting my life with cartel money and federal investigations. Call me when this mess is straightened out. He turns and walks back to his BMW. Evan, Rachel chases after him across the lawn. You can't just leave. Dad sinks onto a bench, suddenly looking every day of his 64 years. This isn't just about money, is it? He asks quietly. No, Mr. Cole, Hale answers. Witness protection breaches carry criminal penalties. My phone buzzes. Marshall Ruiz's name flashes on the screen. I answer, stepping away from my disintegrating family gathering. Cole, I answer. Ruiz's voice is tight with urgency. We have a situation at Quantico. Romano's people were spotted surveilling the facility. My blood runs cold. Tell security not to engage. I'm coming in. I end the call and turn back to the barbecue. Rachel's sobbing by her abandoned tablet. Mom clutches Dad's arm, both looking smaller somehow. I need to go, I tell Hale. Romano's men are at Quantico. He nods once, professional mask firmly in place. Agents Torres and Grayson will continue here. I'll drive you. As we head for the SUV, Mom calls after me. Vanessa, please, your sister needs you. I pause, one foot already in the vehicle, and look back at my family surrounded by half-eaten barbecue and federal agents. The question surfaces unbidden in my mind. At what point does family loyalty reach its breaking point? For me, that moment just arrived. The convoy glides through midnight streets, headlights cutting ribbons through fog that hangs like funeral shrouds. 3 black SUVs with federal plates, no sirens, no flashers. Nothing to announce our presence as we smuggle the Espinoza family away from a sanctuary that no longer exists. I check my watch. 3:17 a.m. We've been moving for 20 minutes. In the back seat, Carla clutches her younger son Miguel to her chest, his 10-year-old body curled against her like a question mark. 14-year-old Luis stares out the window, jaw muscle twitching beneath skin pulled taut across his cheekbones. His eyes reflect passing streetlights, flashes of gold in darkness that reveal nothing of his thoughts. How much longer? Carla whispers, her accent thickening with exhaustion. Another 40 minutes to the airfield, I answer, keeping my voice low. Then a direct flight to the new location. Luis turns from the window. Will they find us again? His voice cracks, betraying the man-child facade he's been maintaining. Beneath the teenage stoicism lurks a terrified boy who has already witnessed too much cartel violence. The question hangs between us. I could offer platitudes, empty reassurances that federal protection is impenetrable, but this family deserves better than comfortable lies after what my parents have done. I meet his eyes directly. Not while I'm alive. The promise settles around us like armor. Deputy Chief Hale, driving the lead vehicle, signals a turn. We follow, sliding deeper into residential suburbs that sleep unaware of the life and death drama passing through their streets. My phone vibrates against my hip. Dad. The fifth call tonight. I silence it without looking. At the airfield, Marshal Ruiz oversees the loading procedures, his massive frame silhouetted against floodlights. His team forms a protective circle around the Espinosas, weapons visible, eyes scanning shadows beyond the tarmac. All clear, Ruiz confirms, voice graveled from too many cigarettes and too little sleep. Planes ready. Pilot reports clear weather all the way. I nod, throat tight as Carla leads her boys up the stairs to the small government jet. They carry nothing but backpacks, all they're allowed from their former life. Everything else stays behind, too dangerous to transport, too easily traced. Someone from the office sent this, Ruiz says, handing me a tablet. Thought you should see it before takeoff. The screen shows a news website. Major breach in witness security program threatens cartel prosecution. My stomach drops as I scroll to a video clip of my mother standing before microphones on our Lancaster porch. We had no idea, she sobs, perfectly made up, even in distress. We thought the house was empty. How were we supposed to know about some secret government program? The camera cuts to a Justice Department spokesperson on the courthouse steps, stern-faced. I spot myself in the background, expressionless beside Hale as reporters shout questions we cannot answer. I hand the tablet back to Ruiz, nausea rising. That's not even the worst of it, he says, pulling up another screen. Rachel's Instagram. 43 minutes ago, when your sister's secret job ruins your entire wedding and bankrupts your parents. Thanks for nothing at V. Cole. Family betrayal. Wedding disaster. Worst sister ever. 2,000 sympathetic comments already. Family, huh? Ruiz says, with surprising gentleness for a man who specializes in tactical operations. Tough break. I swallow hard. They made their choice. My phone lights up with a text from an unknown number. Dad using mom's friend's phone to bypass my blocks. Vanessa, please, we can fix this. Just talk to us. I delete it without responding. Inside the plane, Luis and Miguel have fallen asleep, heads tilted against each other. Carla watches me enter, her dark eyes knowing. She spent 2 years testifying against men who murdered her husband for refusing cartel demands. She recognizes the weight of impossible choices. Your family, she says softly. This must be hard. I sink into the seat across from her. They're alive, unlike what would have happened to you if we hadn't moved quickly. She nods, understanding the unspoken truth. The Romano organization doesn't leave witnesses. Victor Jr. has personally overseen 3 dismemberments of potential informants. In my country, Carla says, we have a saying, blood makes you related, loyalty makes you family. She reaches across the narrow aisle, squeezes my hand briefly. You have shown loyalty. The plane's engines rumble to life. Through the window, I watch Ruiz's team disperse, heading to vehicles strategically positioned around the airfield. Protection doesn't end with transport. They'll maintain surveillance until takeoff, then communications blackout for 12 hours. My phone buzzes again. Hale this time. Porter's built a solid case. DOJ is moving forward with charges against your parents. 6 counts, including obstruction of justice and endangering federal witnesses. I press my forehead against cool glass. And Romano? Junior was spotted at 3 locations near Quantico yesterday. He's accelerating the search. Porter thinks he paid your parents' realtor a finder's fee of $50,000. The betrayal deepens like a knife twisting. $50,000. A fraction of what they made from the sale. Blood money they took without question. Hale continues. We've got round-the-clock security at the courthouse. Carla testifies next Tuesday. I'll be there. Your sister's going public again tomorrow. Morning shows, painting herself as the victim. A bitter laugh escapes me. Of course she is. The plane taxis toward the runway. Beside me, Carla straightens her son's blankets with the automatic tenderness of motherhood, her hands gentle despite the steel in her spine. 3 lives preserved despite my family's betrayal. You should know, Hale says before hanging up. Every marshal in the division has requested assignment to this case. They're calling you their betrayed sister. His voice softens. Family takes different forms, Cole. Remember that. As we lift into darkness, my phone displays one final message from Elaine Porter, DOJ's senior counsel. Subpoenas issued for Thomas and Margaret Cole. Will you testify? The question burns brighter than the plane's wing lights against night sky. Below us, the city shrinks to a constellation of distant stars, each light representing lives untouched by the Romano cartel's reach. Lives worth protecting, even at personal cost. The plane banks east, carrying its precious cargo toward safety. I type my response to Porter, each letter a commitment I cannot retract. Yes, whatever it takes. Have you ever had to stand firm when everyone expected you to back down? On the confrontation day, Pastor Bill shifts in the hard wooden chair outside the courtroom, Bible clutched in his liver-spotted hands. He spots me approaching and rises, his kind face creased with concern. Vanessa, please reconsider. Forgiveness is divine. Your parents made a terrible mistake, but they're still family. I halt, coffee cooling in my hand. My throat tightens at his familiar voice, the same one that guided me through confirmation class at 16. They put 3 lives at risk, Pastor. The youngest boy still has nightmares. He leans closer, breath smelling of butterscotch candies. They didn't know. Margaret told me they thought the house was empty. They never called to ask. The words taste bitter. They saw an opportunity for Rachel's perfect day and took it. The rest didn't matter. The callers of all. Down the corridor, my mother's attorney gestures urgently. Franklin Walsh, Lancaster's most prominent defense lawyer, with his gold cufflinks and $1,000 suit. My parents mortgaged their retirement to afford him. Your sister had to move in with Evan's parents. Pastor Bill continues. Your childhood home's been seized. Haven't they suffered enough? The courtroom doors open. Deputy Chief Hale emerges, his face a professional mask. Our eyes meet, and he gives a nearly imperceptible nod. My cue. I have to go. I have to go. Pastor Bill's hand brushes my sleeve. Blood is thicker than water, Vanessa. So is responsibility. I step away. And some things can't be washed clean. Inside, the courtroom hushes as I enter. Polished wood gleams under fluorescent lights. The American flag hangs limply beside the judge's bench. I spot Rachel in the second row, her mascara already smudged. She hasn't spoken to me since the barbecue 3 months ago. My father sits at the defense table, shoulders slumped inside his best suit, the one he wore to my academy graduation, the one he now wears to his sentencing. Mother sits beside him, back straight, hands clasped primly on the table. She's lost weight. The pink cardigan she once filled out now hangs from her frame. Judge Harriet Monroe shuffles papers at her bench, reading glasses perched on her nose. At 72, she's a legend in federal circles, 30 years on the bench and unflinching when it comes to obstruction of justice. Deputy Marshal Cole. She calls, looking over her glasses. The prosecution indicates you wish to speak. I rise, smoothing my charcoal skirt. Yes, Your Honor. Mother's eyes light with hope. Dad straightens, his face softening. They think I'm here to plead for leniency. They're wrong. I approach the witness stand, Bible cool beneath my palm as I swear to tell the truth. The oak railing feels solid under my fingers, something to anchor me as Walsh approaches, his smile confident. Deputy Marshal Cole, you've had time to reflect on this unfortunate situation. Would you like to speak in mitigation for your parents? The courtroom waits. Every eye watches. Rachel leans forward. I would not. The words fall like stones. Mother's face collapses. Dad's jaw clenches, the muscle twitching the way it always did when I disappointed him. Walsh recovers quickly. Perhaps you could explain to the court that there was no criminal intent? That this was merely a misunderstanding? Objection. Elaine Porter, senior counsel for the DOJ, rises, leading the witness. Sustained, Judge Monroe says. I don't wait for the next question. With the court's permission, I'd like to submit evidence the prosecution may have overlooked. Judge Monroe nods. Proceed, Deputy. Hale hands me a folder. Inside are the documents I've prepared, evidence collected over 3 months of investigation. This is a timeline showing cartel surveillance of the Bethesda property beginning 12 hours after closing. I hand the first document to the bailiff. Note the license plates match vehicles connected to Victor Romano Jr. Mother whimpers. This is a recording from the Rotary Club luncheon where Margaret Cole first mentioned the empty house in Bethesda to James Weston, who connected her with the supposed realtor. The second document passes to the bailiff. Weston has since been identified as a low-level associate of the Romano organization. Dad's hands tremble. This is the power of attorney document my parents used. Page 3 clearly states it's limited to military deployment emergencies. Page 4 contains my father's initials acknowledging these restrictions. Rachel stifles a sob. And finally, I say, my voice steady despite the earthquake inside me, these are photographs of Carlos Espinoza, age 10, during emergency relocation. The psychologist's report notes, he now refuses to sleep without the lights on and experiences panic attacks when hearing Spanish spoken near him. The photographs show a small boy, eyes wide with terror, clutching a stuffed dinosaur as Marshal Ruiz hustles him through a rear exit. The second shows him huddled against his mother in a transport van, fingers pressed over his ears. Walsh blusters. Your Honor, these are clearly meant to prejudice the court. These are consequences, Mr. Walsh, I reply before the judge can. Actions have them. You may step down, Deputy Marshal, Judge Monroe says, her eyes lingering on the photographs. I return to my seat beside Hale, legs trembling beneath my professional exterior. I don't look at my parents. Can't. The sentencing proceeds with terrible efficiency. Victor Romano Sr. Life imprisonment without parole. Victor Romano Jr. 22 years for witness tampering and attempted murder. The kingpin and his heir, taken down by a mother brave enough to testify. Then my parents. Thomas Cole, Judge Monroe intones. I sentence you to 4.5 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years supervised release. Dad's shoulders sag. Margaret Cole, I sentence you to 3 years federal prison, followed by 2 years supervised release. Mother's sob echoes against the high ceiling. The court also orders forfeiture of all proceeds from the illegal sale, including wedding deposits and purchases. Rachel bolts from the courtroom, door swinging in her wake. After, in the marble corridor, my extended family forms a gauntlet of accusing eyes. Uncle Dave steps forward, my father's older brother with his Korean War veteran's cap and perpetual scowl. You could have helped them, he growls. Instead you buried them. I meet his gaze. This man who taught me to fish on summer weekends at Lake Champlain. They buried themselves when they sold that house. It's just a house, for Christ's sake. It was 3 lives, Uncle Dave. A mother and 2 children who trusted us to keep them safe. And what about your mother? Your father? His voice cracks. What about family loyalty? The question hangs between us like smoke. Behind him, cousins and aunts watch, waiting for my answer. Some principles run deeper than blood, I say finally. If that makes me cold, so be it. I walk away, heels clicking against marble. Outside, reporters cluster on the courthouse steps. Camera flashes explode as the door opens. Microphones thrust toward me. Deputy Marshal Cole, do you regret testifying against your parents? I pause, considering the question. Wind catches my hair, bringing the scent of cherry blossoms from the nearby park. Spring in D.C., life renewing while other things wither. Justice isn't about regret, I tell them. It's about drawing lines between right and wrong, and standing on the right side no matter the cost. Behind me, Marshal Ruiz appears, a silent sentinel in tactical gear. We descend the steps together toward the waiting government SUV, leaving the cameras and questions behind. What price would you put on doing what's right, even when it costs you everything? For me, the answer was simple. None at all. Morning light streams through my Arlington apartment windows. 4 years since the trial. 2 years since I watched my parents led away in handcuffs. The coffee maker gurgles in my kitchen as I button my blazer, fingertips grazing the deputy chief badge pinned to my belt. My phone buzzes. A text from Carla Espinoza with a photo attached. Her oldest son won a high school award, beaming next to his mother and younger brother. He wants to study at Georgetown Law. The message reads, said he wants to become a prosecutor. You made this possible, Vanessa. I study their faces alive, thriving, safe, and tuck the phone into my pocket. On my desk sits a single framed photograph. My military unit in Kuwait, arms linked, desert sun harsh against our squinting eyes. The day I signed that power of attorney. The document that nearly got 3 people killed. The drive to Alderson Federal Prison takes 3 hours. Security procedures, another 40 minutes. Then Margaret sits across from me at a scratched metal table, orange jumpsuit hanging loose on her frame. Her hair has gone completely gray. "You look well," she says, hands folded precisely as they were at countless dinner tables throughout my childhood. "The promotion suits you." I say nothing, just slide the envelope across to her. "Another one?" She touches it like it might burn her fingers. "I've written you 6 times now." "I know." She opens it carefully, unfolding 6 handwritten pages. Her eyes scan the first paragraph, then look up. "You read them all?" "Every word." Margaret's throat works as she swallows. "When will you forgive us, Vanessa?" The question hangs between us like smoke. For 2 years I've asked myself the same thing. 2 years watching her age in 15-minute increments across this same table. When I can look at you without seeing the faces of those you almost got killed. She flinches, eyes dropping to her hands. "We didn't know." "You didn't want to know," I correct her. Rachel's wedding mattered more than asking why I owned a house I never visited. Thank you for watching. Outside, visitors hug their loved ones in the parking lot. A child squeals with delight as her father swings her high. Family, such a simple word for something so complicated. Back at headquarters, I lead the monthly review of active witness cases. My team presents security assessments, threat analyses, housing proposals. They're good people. Committed. Not a single witness lost under our protection since I took over. Deputy Chief? Marshal Ruiz lingers after the meeting. New class starts training next week. Still want to take point on the ethics module? I nod, gathering my files. Schedule it for Thursday morning. The training room fills with fresh faces, crisp uniforms, eager eyes. I stand before them, their attention absolute. You'll protect witnesses from professional killers, organized crime, terrorist cells. I tell them, but that's the easy part. Confusion flickers across their expressions. Sometimes the hardest part of this job isn't protecting witnesses from strangers, it's protecting them from the people we love. From your roommate who mentions your odd hours to a friend, from your spouse who resents the secrets, from your parents who think they know what's best for your property. 500 Wada. Their faces sober with understanding. Later, Hale finds me at the window overlooking the D.C. skyline. Monuments lit against the evening sky. "Saw you signed off on tomorrow's prison transport," he says, joining me. "You ever think about reconciling with them? Before their sentences end?" I watch a plane blink its way toward Reagan National. They valued $1.25 million more than 3 lives. I say finally, if that makes me cold for walking away, so be it. Some duties run deeper than blood.